Good day and welcome to tonight's edition of Sunday Politics, a political program for the benefit of you, the Nigerian citizen. A program for Nigerians to have their say on all political matters that affect them. My name is Suleiman. Tonight, we discuss Nigeria's independence. So, happy Independence Day, Nigeria. Today marks 63 years since Nigeria became an independent, self-governing nation. For a person, 63 years is a long time. Almost a retired old man, some people would say. But for a country, it is not so long. Still, some people are saying Nigeria is growing without maturing, that we're traveling without a destination in sight, that in fact, many are asking, where are we even going as a country? What has Nigeria done for Nigerians? What, on the other hand, have Nigerians done for Nigeria as well? Are Nigerians happy with the state of the nation today? And yes, is Nigeria also happy with Nigerians? So tonight, we'll look at these issues in depth with my special guests at the studio and virtually. But also, of course, with you, the viewer at home. Joining me online from Jos is Professor Jideofor Adibe. He's a professor of political science, Nasarawa State University, Kefi. And with me in the studio is Honorable Shehu Atta, a public affairs analyst and a member governing council of Federal College of Education, Yola. You're most welcome, Malam Shehu.
Thank you so much, Malam Suleiman. Happy Independence Day.
Happy, same to you. Yeah. Prof, happy Independence Day to you as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, except that you put me in Jos. I'm not in Jos, I'm in Abuja.
Okay, in Abuja at home. That's all right. Thank you. So, but before we continue, we'll take a short break. And during that, we'll bring you a small feature film on the subject matter. Stay with us.
The community is made up of a diverse set of people, most of whom have fled insurgency in Nigeria's northwest. Women in this part of the world are often disadvantaged in terms of cultural attitude towards women's roles in society, education, and earning a living. Salima Hamisu, a 26-year-old native of Goza town in Borno, is a food seller. She believes Nigerians' independence should be a happy celebration for all. That is why she is calling on government to focus more on the plight of women.
Gashi nan muna murna muna farin ciki sai dai matsalolin da yake muke cikin ta yanzu shine muke neman gwamnati ta taimaka mana ta mana gyaran wasu matsalolin da muke ciki ga yanzu muna dan sana'an mu hakan nan sana'an da muke kuma gaskiya ba yanayin kuɗi a Najeriya da wani wannan muna cikin matsaloli da yawa muna neman gwamnati ta taimaka mana matasan mu da sauran mata hakan nan.
Umar Abdul, a 26-year-old trader, echoed his feelings, stressing the importance of government support for empowering women and small businesses. He further expressed his love for Nigeria and highlighted that no matter where they go, Nigerians always have a deep attachment to their homeland.
Ga iyayenmu mata da yayyenmu suna zuwa wasu gudun shijira ne, wasu daga wasu garuruwan suna zuwa. To mafi gaskiya dai abun da yana kosin sosai shine matsalan man fetur. Yanzu wanda ma suke yin abinci a nan zaka wasu sun rurrufe wani maganan ya siyo shinkafan tsada ya mai muna farin ciki Najeriya ta cika shekara 64 samun yancin kai muna farin ciki sosai.
Many women in the community do not have access to quality health care and education. Lack of financial resources, inadequate infrastructure, and gender disparities compound the situation. Despite all these challenges, women like Sarah Jatto, a hairdresser, and Elizabeth Agbo, a mother of 4, remain optimistic and hopeful for a better future.
I'm happy because today is Nigeria independence. So why I'm talking like this, I just want Nigeria to help.
Welcome back. This is Sunday Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing Nigerian independence today. And with me are two individuals who we believe will do justice to this, who will guide the discussion. Before we open our phone lines to you, the Nigerian citizen and viewer at home to also have your say on this issue. So, Prof, let's start with you online there. Prof, Nigeria is 63 years. For most countries that became independent in the 60s, in this country, I mean, in Africa especially, this will be regarded as a milestone. Do you think there's a lot that Nigeria should be proud of at this moment, at 63?
If you hear me, I didn't hear properly what you said because your voice was cutting.
Okay.
If you hear me, can you kindly repeat?
We're now 63 years. Do you think
Okay.
we have achieved a milestone that is worthy of being celebrated? Are we where we would like to be at the moment?
Well, if you are where you would like to be, it means there's no need for striving. So it's a good thing that we feel we are not where we ought to be, because that gives room for improvement, that gives room for striving. So it is natural. Is it cause for celebrating somebody who is alive at the age of 63, when the life expectancy in Nigeria is about 45, should have something to celebrate? In the case of Nigeria, the fact of attaining 63, despite all the contentious issues we have had to grapple with over the years, including the fact that even the basis of statehood remains contested, it's a cause for celebration. The fact that we have gone on the precipice for several years, that in fact precipice has become our more or less our comfort zone, and we are still perching there, is a cause for celebration. What should be the challenge is how do we move out of this precipice and be able to accelerate our march to nationhood, accelerate our march to economic development.
Thank you. So, Malisho, this honorable, this Prof is saying there's something to celebrate, the very fact that we've been together, we're here as one country the way we were in 1960. We're still in one piece, in one shape, you know, despite all the challenges and so on. The marriage has held strong up till this moment, and there's good indication that it will hold for longer. Is that something for which many Nigerians should be happy about?
Definitely.
Is that what you take away from a 63-year-old nation?
Definitely. Yeah, when you looked at, when you review our journey so far from the struggle for independence and through the processes that the country has gone through, we have the struggle for the independence by our founding fathers. Then we have the years that passed. We have the Civil War. Then we have the military era. Then we transition to democracy. This is the 7th democratically elected president of the country, President Bola Tinubu. So we have every cause to celebrate, despite our challenges, despite our differences. The country is still standing. We still have a country today we can call our own. So it's a cause for celebration. We're not there where we want to be yet, but we know that with leaders that are passionate about the country, that are patriotic enough, that can sow that vision.
But some people say that in 2013, there were the same set of things we celebrated. The fact that we were still one and still together. So the question is that enough? Is that what we keep celebrating again and again and again?
It's a good starting point, because one, we must have a country first before we even talk about socio-economic development. That despite all the challenges the country has gone through, over time, the Civil War, leadership challenges here and there, the internal strife, insurgency, banditry, so the country is grappling with a lot of challenges, but then we're still holding ourselves together. And we just emerged from an election that was competitively hard-fought election, but we have a leader, we have a president, we have confidence in, and that has demonstrated leadership over time, have credibility. So it's a whole lot of things for us to celebrate. Is the milestone. 63 years is not 3 years.
Interesting. Prof, the Honorable is he's mentioning so many of the things that Nigeria is facing, so many of challenges, insurgency, banditry, successionist agendas here and there. And he talked about a just concluded election. Before we come to the election, maybe let's take a few moments to talk about some of these things, because it is these challenges that he is talking about that made the Economist Intelligence Unit, as you know, to describe as Nigeria as that country where the worst is impossible. I mean, where the best is impossible, but the worst never happens. So is that what we should be saying now at 63? That okay, the worst has not happened, but the best has not happened.
I only got 50%.
Is that
I only got 50% of your voice is cutting. Your voice is breaking or was breaking, so I didn't get properly what you said or the question.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I heard you, but maybe if you come closer to the mic or wherever, because your voice kept breaking, so okay. I wasn't able to piece together the question.
Okay, I'm saying that if you remember the Economist Intelligence Unit, they describe Nigeria as a country where the best is impossible, but the worst never happens. So what you and Honorable Shewata have said so far captures more or less that okay, here we are, the worst has not happened, but well, here we are. So should we be happy with that? Is that enough for a country at 63 years of age?
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, Kabir. Can you hear me properly?
Very well, we can hear you, yes. Go ahead.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well, go ahead.
Okay, actually, there are things that have been happening positively, very imperceptibly, I will say. I can tell you, a couple of years ago, not a couple of years ago, say, there was a time, if you want to answer an international call, you go to a place, the NITEL, and you spend 3 hours to be connected to an international call. Now, virtually everyone has a mobile phone. There was also a time, in my own time in Onitsha, in the 70s and 80s, some part of 80s, if they brought light, what we used to call NEPA then, people would scream and shout for joy, oh, up NEPA. These days, if you take light, in many areas and this last more than a day, people complain. So what I think we are suffering from is what I can call aspirational deprivation. With the globalization of the world through technology, people see what is happening, the happenings in other parts of the world. They think that given our human resources and material resources, that we ought to be doing better. I can tell you, 10, 20 years ago, if you're a lecturer, you just travel abroad. I mean, many people returning abroad to become lecturers, you just come back home, you're happy to buy a Volkswagen. And you become a middle class. Now the notion of middle class has become reconstituted. It's no longer enough. You can't just become a lecturer and say you're middle class. You can be lower middle class. So things have changed. There has been some kind of differentiations in the society. And that should not mask other things that are happening. Look at, for example, our musicians. They go to O2 Arena in the UK, big stadia, and then their concerts are able to attract people to fill the stadium. The Nollywood, some of the movies you find them on Netflix. You see our women football players. There are things that are happening imperceptibly. In my own opinion, the challenge we have is that the nation building process has been mired in crisis. And I've always argued that our politics is partly responsible for that. because politics involves the mobilization of several identities. And you mobilize these identities to fight an election in a simplistic binary of we versus them. And then after winning a highly contentious election, before the wounds are healed, mostly after by second year, they are preparing for another campaign. In other words, the chasm, the depth of the fault lines kept getting deeper and deeper, and without sufficient time for us to heal. And that's why I think I've been arguing that we should reimagine our politics. I think this 4 year gap of contesting an election is too close and doesn't allow, wounds to heal. I also have been canvassing for the idea of collegial presidency, since fear of marginalization by part of the country seems to be responsible for the anarchic character of our politics, in which there seems to be a pervasive belief that those who capture power will use it to privilege their in group and disadvantage the other. Politics becomes more like a Hobbesian state of nature. So, in that sense, I'm saying that, and in any case, our elections do not turn out to be a credible vehicle of leadership recruitment because of rigging and everything that goes with them. So, I've been arguing that when we reimagine our politics, it becomes easier for us to focus on development. Come out with something that is completely unique, and we don't need the validation of the outside world. For example, I believe I've been canvassing for idea of a collegial presidency in which each of the six geopolitical zones will have one person. So it becomes six, and each of the six will take turn in becoming president for 2 years. So this will give us enough longevity. And because if you look at these people we used to call Asian tigers, they were not democracies. So there's been a focus and less emphasis on politics. Every part of the country is more or less taken on board. And we focus on the democracy, on development.
Let me bring in our colleague in the studio here.
They seem to be very disenchanted with politics. So when we think of how to reimagine our society and our politics, it should start with how do we, resolve this issue of the, the deepening of our fault line, the aggravation of the structures of conflict, which our current liberal democracy seems to,
Shiwate, you can hear all that he has said. Like he talked about the election, competitive elections, and he says that the problem that we're making some progress because in the past you can see certain things that we didn't have, which we now have, and that the major problem with our society, with our progress, our development as a nation, is the way the politics is constituted. And he would like us to reimagine that politics, for example, by having a collegial presidency in which you have 6 people drawn from 6 geopolitical zones, each one taking turn maybe say over a year to become president, so over a 6-year tenure or so. We will be coming back to that to dig deeper into that insight, Prof. But in the meantime, I want to go back to what he said about before, if you wanted to make calls, it will take years before you get to make a call, or NEPA and so on. Some people also say that there were other things that we used to have that were better in the 60s and 70s and 80s than what we have now. Some will say that, for example, the quality of primary and secondary school education, that if you put your son in a public school in 1980 or even 1990, chances are that that son or that girl child will be able to read and write and may even go ahead to pass WAEC. But now, public schools in the same country, are unable to give you that quality of education that you need. Some people will say the same of hospitals. Some people will say the same of many different kinds of institutions and organizations, that things used to be better before than where they are now. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, definitely. We are in this country, and clearly we can see that there has been a depreciation of or getting value from our public institutions over time. Because when you look at where we're coming from, in the past, looked at our educational sector, for instance, look at the health sector, look at most of the public institutions. Over time, the country population has grown over time. We have a country of over 200 million people, and we've not been able to develop our infrastructures in terms of human capital infrastructure, in terms of the physical infrastructure to be able to render services to Nigerians. And it's a dual problem. It's a problem of leadership and it's a problem of followership. But what we need to set this country on a path of growth again is for the leader to set a vision that will be able, that can be transcend over to the followers. Because for the country to develop, it's not only the leader that will take the responsibility. There has to be followership, and there has to be passion for the country. There has to be patriotism. The Nigerians have to follow the leadership. We have to key into the vision of our leaders. Coincidentally, we have a president that has a good antecedent, has a good track record, has been a governor in subnational, and we've seen what he has done in the past, and we know that he has the capacity to lead this country, and he's coming up with a lot of reforms that we know with time. For now, things are a bit difficult for Nigeria, but we know that with the kind of reform happening in the financial sector,
not difficult. Some would say not a bit difficult.
Yeah, things are difficult. Things are with the removal of fuel subsidies and with what is happening in the financial market. So things are difficult for Nigeria, but these are necessary policies that have to happen for the country to be set on the path of growth. So what we need as Nigerians, we need that patriotism. We need to key into the vision of our leaders, and we need leaders that can walk their talk. And from indication, Asiwaju have the capacity, he has the capacity to provide that leadership. And we believe that with the country unifying against, behind our leader,
But what about what Prof said, to have a different set of political system?
I'm afraid that is the constitutional issue. What we are practicing now is the system we are practicing now is different from what he is recommending. Are you getting it? So, and the real issue we have in the country is the question of leadership. It's the question of leadership. We need that leader that will be able to galvanize that support from the followers, from Nigerians, to be able to we need all hands to be on deck, to be able to work to deliver the dividends of democracy to Nigerians. And
Prof, just to re-examine your ideas and your insights further, are you there with us, Prof? So he thinks that the current system
I can hear you.
now is what is in the Constitution. The reimagining that you are talking about is not yet in the Constitution. So how do we get from where we are now to where you are looking at? Should it even be possible to do? How do we make it practical?
Now I miss you again. Sorry, Kabi, you have to come. I think it's only when you come a second time that I hear you properly.
What we are saying is, suppose he is saying that, well, yes, what you are imagining is good on paper, but it is outside of the current constitution of Nigeria, the 1999 constitution. So how do we get from where we are now to what you are thinking? And what benefit would it really have, or what difference would it make from what we now have currently?
Yeah, he's right. It's a constitutional issue. But you also know we've had a couple of constitutional conferences. There were several conversing, people coming for national conference. We have the Jonathan Committee. We have the one by Obasanjo. And before the 1979 Constitution, we had the Constituent Assembly. Of course, the National Assembly will not support it unless because it will amount to committing class suicide. But there is a way it can be, review some of the other documents and then constitute a committee on how to reimagine our politics. And those recommendations, obviously, will have to have the buy-in of the Nigerian Governors Forum, who control most of the senators and the national members of the National Assembly, so that it becomes a national consensus. If it becomes a national consensus, then it can be sent to the National Assembly, for ratification, or for them to, pass it into laws, which then, of course, the president will assent to. But I think, really, if you look at it realistically, what is the sense of election? It is for leadership recruitment. And then the leadership, of course, democracy never promises anybody it will give you the best or even give you the economic development. What it promises is that those that present themselves, people will be allowed to choose. Now, because of the nature of our politics, it's highly monetized, and because it is anarchic, you need to have rough edges to be able to, swim in that shark-infested waters. So the good ones, not many people that are considered good will even want to come out because they either lack the rough edges or they lack the resources. In essence, one of the key purposes of election to be a vehicle for leadership recruitment is not being satisfied by the elections. And not to talk about the whole process of corrupting the system, election rigging and other things. So what's the point of the ritual? We just waste a lot of money. And in the process of campaign, because there are group dynamics in politics and identities are necessarily mobilized, what you then have is a simplistic binary of we and them dichotomy, often along ethnic and other primordial lines. And this
people are saying that some people are saying that
So I think we should have to find a way of dispensing with it. One, the periodical is too expensive. So if we make it a 12-year thing, and at the subnational level, we introduce like a form of proportional representation, so that it's no longer winner takes all. We want to downgrade politics. It is still democratic. We'll still be able to utilize the freedoms that are embedded in the.
It's not politics, but the economics. Some people are saying that the problem is not politics, but the economics. That the average Nigerian citizen doesn't really care much, doesn't hate other Nigerians. The average Nigerian citizen does not hate other Nigerians. No, they live together in the same neighborhoods, in the same face-me, face-you houses, in the same compounds. Their children attend the same schools. They meet in the same hospitals, in the same market every day. And they are fine with each other in all of this context. That the real issue is not politics, but economics. That people don't have means of livelihoods, that poverty rates are too high, and that because of this, it is easy to cause divisions among people. How do you respond to that in line with what you said earlier, that the problem is largely the nature of politics that we have? Yes.
I am not too sure I agree that the problem is economics, because even the economic solutions are arrived at through the political process. And that was why the Nkrumah said seek ye first the political kingdom and every other thing will be added. As a matter of fact, the struggle for power is that whoever captures state power can determine every other thing in the society. And you have seen it. So you win, you become the president, you can throw in the former CBN governor in jail and that into detention and just to look the other way around. I can decide to pick you, Kabiru, no, so look, no, I don't want you to become a reporter. In a matter of 1 week, you become a billionaire. Yes. So it is that aspect of politics, or you can use it to privilege one group, one ethnic group and other. At the level, horizontal level, is a different thing from where the middle class, where the elites, where the entrepreneurs play, because quite often they will also need state power, to go beyond a certain level in their businesses. So I'm not sure. People say the problem is economics. How do you determine economic politics outside the political process?
Thank you. We've just got to the first half of this program. When we return, we'll be opening our lines for our viewers to make their contributions or ask questions or generally have their say. And when we also return, we'll be looking at which way forward. Some people have talked about elections and others have mentioned the fact that we now have a new government in place. What should this government do to move us ahead? What should they not do to get to a better Nigeria? Stay with us. When we return, we'll be discussing all of this with the lines open for you, the Nigerian citizen, to have your say. Welcome back. This is Sunday Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing Nigeria's Independence Day, particularly what destination, where exactly are we going as a country? So, Honorable Shehu, you mentioned earlier that we now have a new government in place, which you believe can move Nigerians forward. But there are many Nigerians who would say that the government has actually made things worse in the past 3 years, rather than make them better. In the Vox poll that we took earlier, you heard many Nigerians complaining about fuel subsidy removal and things like that. So how do you see this government taking Nigerians forward, and speaking as a Nigerian citizen more than a member of a political party, if you can?
Yeah, we're all feeling the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy and what's happening in the FX, the foreign exchange market and all that. We believe that with the policies the government is implementing, it will take some time before we'll start seeing the result, but that is the right path for us to go. When you see what is happening, what has happened with the fuel subsidy, so much money was being taken by the people involved in the fuel supplies and all that. Yes. But with the removal of fuel subsidy, that now gives the state savings that can be plowed into some other sector of the economy, like infrastructure, like roads in our rural areas, like education, providing more infrastructure in the classrooms, teaching, providing training for teachers. We talked about diversifying the economy, the fixing of refineries too. The Warri refinery is been repaired. The Port Harcourt refinery is under repair. So if these funds that is being saved from the fuel subsidy removal can be channeled to repair our refineries, eventually the burden of the fuel subsidy removal will be addressed. And another thing the government was talking about was about the deployment of CNG buses. With these now, at least with that, it's going to ease the medium for transportation, with the deployment of those CNG buses, at least going to alleviate the pressure that we're all facing in terms of this removal of fuel subsidy. And gradually, the country, the economy can be impacted by plowing back what is being saved from the removal of the fuel subsidy into the other sector.
Let's hear from Prof. Prof, are you there with us?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, where do you see that this government is taking us? Is on the right track to taking Nigeria to a better place over the past 3 months so far? Do you have any confidence that next year, around this time next year, when we're talking about Nigeria at 64, we can say that, okay, we are on the right track and going to a better place with our country?
Well, let me play a pastor and tell you that I'm not going to tell you God told me, but my feeling is this. The policies cannot be sustained. And why do you see that? Because we had exactly similar policies under Babangida. When you floated you had the second foreign exchange market and the foreign exchange market. When you float, it presupposes, what's the whole point of floating? You float your exchange rate to lower it and make sure that you're able and make your exports very attractive. What do you export? Even the crude, you are simply a price taker in the world market. And subsidy is an ideological thing. All the three key presidential candidates are free marketers. And for that reason, people came to quickly concluded that Nigerians have agreed that fuel subsidies will go. I think, what will have happened, in my own opinion, is a phased reduction of subsidy. Because if you have subsidy on fuel, you are subsidizing several sectors of the economy at the same time. It cascades throughout the entire value chain, especially if you subsidize fuel and subsidize fertilizer. There is no country in the world where you don't have subsidies. In fact, if you go to the European Union, the common agricultural policy takes a huge percent, over 60% of the budget of the European Union. You go to the farm gate policies in the US and several others, not to talk of the subsidies they provided to their businesses during the COVID-19. And then part of this thing they call Washington Consensus, you start implementing them and
yes, please. Yes. Tell us your name and then go ahead and make your contribution or ask a question. Oh, okay. We've lost the caller. Go ahead, Prof. Yes.
And then the whole thing you call cash transfer, for me, it's meaningless. It's handouts. I support the fact that we should start thinking of development.
Yes, go ahead. Tell us your name, and then.
My name is Joshua Tunga from Yobe State.
From where?
From Yobe State.
From Yobe. Go ahead, please, Joshua. Yes.
Yeah, please, sir. My own view is that actually this is a very bad independence for us. And why I'm saying so is because you imagine with this independence, with all the hardship on ground, yes, federal government workers are not paid. We are here, we live with our pay. We don't even know what we are in. And labor strike on top. So we don't know where we are going to. Actually, this is a very bad independence. That is just the truth and the reality. We are not just really getting it easy. In fact, we wish that the strike should go on so that we'll go and die on the road. We go and protest and make sure that our view is being listened, because the way this country is going, the nonsense is getting too much. Yes, that's my view. Thank you.
Thank you. But Honorable Shehu, what does it mean to be celebrating independence without salaries paid to workers when 30 days of last month had already passed?
You know, we can't say exactly where the caller is working, whether he's a federal government worker or a state government worker, but then it's not a good one, you know. For every citizen that works, he is entitled to his wage. He should earn his salary. You know, more so that the times are very difficult time for Nigerians, you know. So government should be able to live up to his own responsibility part of it. So I'm sure that the state government...
Just a moment. We have another caller online. Please go ahead. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and then ask your question or make a contribution.
Okay, I'm Dr. Sani Akubo Gombe, calling from Gombe State.
Okay, Dr. Sani, go ahead, please.
Sometimes if you are listening to analysts on this issue of independence, one tends to laugh. Possibly they don't look at it from the perspective of growth and development. Whenever you are talking about a country developing or country celebrating its independence, you have to look at the two components. And then vis-a-vis, look at the common man in that particular country. What has he gained within the number of these years that independence is being celebrated? And at the same time, looking at the country itself, whether it is competing globally with other countries, that we are also celebrating similar independence. So when you take all these indices or the KPIs and look at them, you will laugh at Nigeria. Yes, we have grown up from 3 regions to having 19 states. Now we are having 36 states and Abuja. That is growth. Yes, the population has also increased. But when you look at the quality of life of individuals within this country, when you look at the global outlook of the country itself, when you look at the contribution the country is giving to its own citizens, then you can easily say we have not moved an inch. I like that question that you asked, where is the destination? The destination is nowhere to be found, because from the leaders down to those that are being led, if you ask them, where are we heading to now? Nobody can easily tell you that we are heading towards prosperity. The political analyst there in the studio saying that Tinubu has the capacity. Nobody is doubting his own capacity. But that is not what we are asking about, but rather, it's not about rhetoric, but rather about action. We want to see action. If Tinubu is fully prepared to change the scenario we saw in the Buhari's administration, then he tends to have come up with something before he even made the announcement of this removal of fuel subsidy. We intend to see the plan on ground. Immediately he announced it, then that particular proposal can easily be implemented. I like the assertions made by the prof of political science. We that are in the vocational science, we look at it as we have not moved an inch from where we were before. Rather, we are even retrogressing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sani,
our education quality and what have you have deteriorated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sani from Gombe. Prof, one of the things he said is that it is important to look at other countries that started development or got independence alongside Nigeria around the same time. You know, countries, for example, in the 60s, you know, maybe in the Asian Tigers, you know, and so on, Singapore, Malaysia, and so on. So he's saying that not only what is happening in Nigeria, but what is happening comparatively with other countries with which Nigeria is at a similar level of development around the time we had our independence. How do you see Nigeria moving from that perspective that Dr. Sani mentioned earlier?
And US, they achieved the nation building was through ethnic cleansing. They just imposed their culture, removed the indigenous inhabitants. That's not the way our own is going. So there are hiccups on the way. We have to constitute. That's why I say, if we don't build a nation, if we don't have that sense that we are a nation, then we cannot agree on a direction. And if we don't have a nation, any problem you try to throw on, any solution you try to throw on any of the multifarious problems tends to become part of the problem. You saw it with creation of states. You create one, it leads to agitation for more. You solve one problem, amnesty program in the Niger Delta, other parts of the country will start agitating and feeling marginalized. That's because the basis of statehood remains contested. And we have not, the journey for nationhood was mired in crisis. And I end up mired.
One of the things he said, one of the things he said is one of the things Dr. Sani, okay, Prof, yes, go ahead.
Politics, which is why I'm arguing that we should reimagine our politics to help facilitate the nation building process, which will then give us a direction on where we are going.
Thank you. So one of the things Dr. Sani said from Gombe when he called is that you said Tinubu is all prepared, is going to do this, going to do that. And he said Nigerians don't care about words, that what Nigerians want to see actions on the ground. They would like to see how things are actually moving day in, day out. It's been 3-4 months. How do you respond to that?
You cannot, even if it is a childbirth, it takes 9 months for a woman to go through pregnancy before a child will be delivered.
Absolutely.
You get? So we need to give our president time for him to conceive or for the policies of government to come to fruition. But that's not discarding the fact that Nigerians are going through turbulent, very hard period, So, but if you looked at the policies so far, the removal of fuel subsidy, trying to stabilize the currency, naira, and trying to channel the funds that will be saved from this into productive sector like infrastructure, rural roads development, and all.
We have a caller on the line. You should know that this program is for you, the Nigerian at home. So call us and let us have your say. Yes, go ahead, tell us your name.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Go ahead, tell us your name, where you're calling from, and then make your contribution or ask a question. We lost that caller, but we have another one just on the line. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, are you Ugo Shamaki is calling from Nasarawa State?
Okay.
Yeah, Nigeria is celebrating 63rd anniversary. And body language of Mr. President to me is like he repeated what he said during his inaugural speech. The question some of us are asking, when will the minimum wage be implemented? Because it's long overdue. And the workers are suffering. And something needs to be done to cushion the effect that's going on at the moment. So this is the question that some of us were asking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So how do you respond quickly?
If you listen to the president's speech, there's going to be 25,000 that will be added to the people at the bottom of the ladder,
But that's part of the confusion. People are saying that the changes in the economy, the high cost of things have not occurred or do not affect only some people. They affect everybody.
Yeah.
So if you are adding, if somebody was earning maybe say 50,000 last month, and then you add 25,000 to him, and then he is now earning 75,000. And another person was earning 65,000 last month, and you add nothing to him because you feel that he is not at that point. What happens? But before you answer, we have another caller. Yes, callers have the right of way at this part of the show. Callers, tell us your name. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hello?
Yes, go ahead. Tell us your name and go ahead.
Yeah. Hello?
We can hear you very much. Tell us your name and then, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Basaka. I'm calling from Bauchi.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Yes. So the 25,000 naira that the president is for all workers, it's not making sense. At least he should call economists on table. Let the subsidy should be 50-50. The government should take 50%, while the other people should take 50%. Where if the government decides to take 50-50, the palliative will touch everybody in the country. Why? Because whether you like it or not, you benefit directly or indirectly. So I've not seen sense in giving civil servants 25,000 naira for what? If the public let it call people that will assist him. The economy should come on table. Let it be 50-50. Let the fuel is now 600 plus. Let it be 50-50. I think everybody will enjoy the palliative. That give people one measure of rice or one bag of rice. For how long can we sustain it? So I think, please, we should find a way of solving the problem, not creating more problems.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kalim from Bauchi. Thank you very much. Prof, this looks like what you said earlier about phased subsidy removal. How do you see this proposal of 50-50. The federal government pays 50% of the cost of fuel, and then the consumer bears 50% of the cost. How do you see that?
I've said that I'll be very surprised if in the next 6 months this policy is not reversed, not sustainable. And even you're giving, you see, the person has highlighted the part of the problem. They seem to think of Education Loan Act, which was not hurriedly put in place, not properly thought through. You know, if you look at that one act, they say, oh, we are going to use this to solve the problem in the education sector. You come to analyze and interrogate it, you find out that it's not implementable. It requires you to have an income of no more than 500,000 for a household, which means an estimated 46,000 if you and your wife are working. And at that 46,000, part of the requirement is that you have to bring a tax receipt. At that income range, you don't pay tax, so there will be no tax receipt. And then you require somebody to be a guarantor. At that pay package, nobody will guarantee you. So these are some of the things that people complain about. You know, it's not maybe because he just put his cabinet in place. There may be still time for them to, you know, start thinking through and chewing through their policies before.
I'm afraid our time has run out. This is where we come to the end of the show tonight. Unfortunately, thank you very much, Professor Gideon, for Adibe. Thank you also, Honorable Shehu Atta, for coming on the show. Thank you for your insights into this. Thank you also, viewers and callers who made a call today. We hope that you like the show today, and we will be here for you next week when we bring you another edition of Sunday Politics. My name is Suleiman. Stay with us.